Welcome back to our videocast series, Beyond the IT Headlines. So far on the series, we've talked a lot about how AI itself is evolving every day. But how is AI evolving entire industries? Where will banking, manufacturing, and medicine be in the next 3, 5, 10 years? I'm Shawn Rosemarin, and joining us today is Shammy Narayanan, VP of AI and Data at Welldoc. Welldoc's one of the companies that's actually operating at what Stanford and Harvard just called the booming era of clinical AI. Today, we're going beyond the hype and beyond the headlines to talk about how clinical-grade AI, agentic care co-pilots, and really, what's it going to take under the hood to make this stuff safe and scalable to improve all of our lives. Shammy, great to have you on the show. Rather than reading your bio, why don't you describe what you do at Welldoc in 1 or 2 sentences for us?
First of all, thank you. Thank you, Sham, for having me here. Um, as a VP of AI and data, one of my primary objectives is how do I bring those data elements which are scattered, fragmented all over the different sources into something which is pretty useful for our patients and help them to lead a much better life. That's at a very high level what me and my team strive to do at Welldoc.
You know, this is a great topic because we talk a lot about AI in terms of, find me the best pair of running shoes, tell me where to eat in a particular city, give me the best hotel to stay at when I'm in a particular city. But this one hits hard. This one hits home because all of us are getting older. Biology is real. And, ultimately, healthcare is probably the most data rich industry on the planet. We all wear smart devices and, we start to see more and more computerization within hospitals and clinics. Um, and even in terms of records, we've seen tremendous digitization, electronic health records, lab systems, pharmacy data, genomics. But yet the data still feels highly fragmented and disconnected. So, what's really holding us back here? Like, why don't we still at this point really have a patient's full picture in one place?
You actually brought in a very interesting point. This had been a pain area for us quite for some time, right? Because I haven't seen any healthcare system, whether it is a payer, a PBM, or a provider, where more than 50% of the data is put into actionable use. That is, half of the data is stale, or not available, or not accessible at the right time. And then you talk about interoperability, wherein you have data, you have systems, but they are handshaking well, they are communicating well. That had been a pain area quite for some time. We definitely believe in 2026 with AI coming into picture. I'm not going to say it will eliminate it fully, but it will minimize it a lot. So if a patient is going to move from a rural hospital into a city, will that AI patient record will follow accurately on time? That is something which I believe we are going to look out closely and work on those initiatives which will make it happen. Today, we are in a silos of silence where you have data either which is too much fragmented, unavailable, or even if it is available, it doesn't talk to each other effectively.
Okay, so you're talking about a bunch of different things here. I mean, we've talked in AI about the lack of AI-ready data, right? And we've tried to define that as data that has context, data that's connected. In previous episodes, we've talked about things like model context protocol, MCP. But you're talking about something, I think, a little bigger here. I mean, is what you're hinting at that the legacy or technical debt associated with a lot of these legacy platforms, is that what's preventing us from connecting it? Is it kind of compliance and governance and standards, or is it something else?
It's a combination of all those factors which you said, because most of the data which we are talking about is in the legacy platforms, and some of them have they are in a pressing need that needs to be modernized. And some of this data which we are talking about is still, you won't believe me, uh, is still in papers. It is still in papers which has to be converted into digital format through OCR and all whatnot, other softwares, right? And compliance, the type of taxonomy which we use, the type of protocols which we use, if you take BP alone, right, it can be represented in 4 different ways within a single healthcare system. So for someone to come and say that this particular value or this particular parameter just stands for the same BP is going to be difficult. And now with all this modern IoT devices coming into picture, you have different sources of truth for the same data. I'll give you an example. It will be easier for you to understand. Sitting at home, I can look at my BP and I can probably open my app and say, today morning, this is my BP. And then probably I go into a Walgreen and there is a BP meter. So, which is going to record my BP and probably it is going to transmit, assume that it knows my patient ID. Now, the same BP is recorded by a independent machine, an IoT machine, it sends it. And then I go to the physician and they are going to measure my BP and then they are going to record it in Epic or their own system, what they have. So I have a BP as a reading, 3 different sources in a span of 1 to 2 hours. It is possible. Now, which is the right source of truth? We don't know. And in such cases, right, apart from the different interpretations of it and the different sources where it comes from, it makes it difficult and more complex to put that into use. And that's the problem which had been plaguing us quite for some time. And that's what we are trying to break. Say that, okay, can we move fast? Can we do something much better than what we have been doing in the past?
Okay, so what I think I heard you say, and let me make sure I got this correctly, is that the systems of record are still distributed. So you used a Walgreens example, you used a clinician or physician example, but where that data is getting captured is not only in different systems, but it's in different formats. I personally wasn't aware that blood pressure had 4 different formats that it's registered in. So is this an ETL problem or is this a system of record problem?
It's a system of record problem. So all the systems, they don't speak the same language, and you need someone to have an orchestration and convert this, saying that this is how it is getting mapped.
Okay, so then, I mean, obviously, I think everybody understands, and it would benefit us all to have a single set of records. Let's talk about what's truly in production and what's in research and what you guys are working on. I mean, Stanford and Harvard's State of Clinical AI report that I read prior to this episode said we're moving to more routine clinical practice of AI in many areas, right? Recording patient conversations, connecting data, using AI to read things like radiology. From your vantage point, where is clinical AI actually delivering repeatable value? And kind of where are we more into slideware than software?
At a high level, I think AI is creating a major difference in 3 areas on the clinical side. One which you already mentioned, right? Ambient scribes, which had been quite there for some time. It is now gaining up in its efficiency. So it listens to the patient, it listens to the physician, rather than waiting for the physician to go ahead and make notes on his own. Now the AI will start making the notes so that the face time between a patient and a physician can go up and the administrative burden comes down. This system is not new. It had been work in progress quite for some time, but what has happened is its accuracy has gone up, its efficiency has gone up, and that will continue to happen as the models progress. So I wouldn't call that as a major innovation. It is just it is becoming better and better with the passage of time. The other 2 areas which I look upon is multimodal AI. What I mean by that is, are we just looking into fragmented units? Say, am I just reading your X-ray? No, I have access to your say your Fitbit, so I can understand your activity pattern. Now I can also go ahead and understand your gene mapping. So can I come back with a precision medicine rather than the coming and saying a generic one, which is what we have been used to so far? Can I combine all this information and say that and make a very accurate judgment, far better than what I was used to, what we used to do in the past, right? So that is multimodal AI, where it combines all those information and makes more intelligent decision. Now, the third one is the rise of agentic AI. What I mean by that is, again, don't look it in the silos. A treatment plan. Now, can agents go ahead, read your treatment plan, start scheduling a physician's visit for you? It understands your insurance. So it goes ahead and also communicates with your pharmacy about the prescription. And it also goes ahead and it can do a lot of things, right? Follow-ups, medication adherence. So now it is a comprehensive umbrella. Earlier, we used to do all this as a point solution. You have a point solution for each of these fragments. Now I'm going to look at it in a comprehensive way. So these three things, ambient listening, which we had in the past, multimodal AI, and then the third is the agentic AI, which is going to give us a very different experience when it comes to the treatment plan. These are the things which are work in progress. That is, as I speak, different organizations are doing this at different stages, and pretty much you'll be able to see all of this in production before the end of this year.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about this a little more. Let's get a little specific. So if I look at chronic patients dealing with chronic illness that they're going to live with, typically they've had a primary care physician who they see on an ongoing basis. Obviously, physicians in healthcare suffer from burnout on an ongoing basis just based on patient load. Are you telling me that a lot of this sort of ambient AI, these things that we wear, where we go, what we do, what we eat, who we interact with, the places we travel, our lifestyle, are you telling me that we're at a point now where all of that, call it ambient information, multimodal information, can now become an essential part of that patient record and leave to a lot more, I'm going to say, prescriptive care as opposed to reactive care?
Exactly. In fact, I would even say it'll probably in the next 5 to 10 years, you would have heard about this term called digital twin. This is mostly followed in the automobile industry where they wanted to test it out. They did not take a car to an extreme climate to test out few conditions, but they can do it in the lab. I wouldn't be surprised, or I will say with confidence, that we will individually have a digital twin. So basically, so that prescriptive medicine or a personalized medicine is not too far away, given that each one of us are unique. Our biomarkers are unique. And so why not the medicine should be unique? In fact, today as we speak, in cases like cancer, it is already followed. You don't give the same level of chemotherapy to all the patients, even though they might be at the same stage, at the same type of cancer. It differs depending on their body weight, the tumor size, and a lot of other parameters. Now, why can't we replicate that model even for personal care? Maybe it is a common cold. Maybe it is it's a headache, but still, can we do something much better than what we are doing today? So, digital twin is something which I definitely believe it's on the path. It may take 5 or 10 years, or even shorter than that. It will happen, and I also believe we will make a lot of advancement when it comes to behavioral medicine, behavioral therapy, or if I have to call in short, behavioral health, wherein based on your digital interaction, based on your voice pattern, can I guess and accurately guess some of those symptoms much earlier and start the medication little bit ahead of the game so that the treatment plan can be compressed. That is something which will be making a lot of inroads. The third one which I see is the rare diseases. Rare diseases are not that profitable for companies because, again, by name it is rare. So only a small set of population will be impacted by it. With AI, the drug discovery time will be compressed and it can start the drug design from the scratch. So it will create a equalizing field where even rare diseases can be addressed with the same efficiency as what is happening with the common diseases today. So those are the three things which I personally believe we should be making a lot of inroads in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, you talked about something Very important there. I want to make sure audience doesn't miss it. So we're talking about rare diseases. We're talking about diseases that typically don't get funded, diseases that typically don't have enough return for the cost of developing the drug. There's not enough people that need the drug, and the drug would thereby be either too expensive for people to afford or not profitable enough for the drug company to actually build. But you also talked about this concept of digital twins, and I want to double click on that. So, are you imagining a world then, or telling us that we're close to a world where theoretically, if Shammy was a clinical care patient, I could create 100 digital Shammies? I could then deliver different treatments to that digital Shammy that has all of your particular biomarkers and genetic characteristics. And I could actually accelerate the aging of that particular drug treatment and play out what's likely to happen given what's very specific to you.
Exactly. So how does my body reacts to a particular um, clinical compound, right? Today, there is no way to do it. Rather, we have to experiment it in real. So there have been cases where a certain medicine which works for a group of individuals doesn't work for other group, and we need to figure it out only down after some time. By that time, probably the disease also gets worsened. Those are certain situations which we are seeing it. With the digital twin, we will be able to make more accurate prediction. We can even see what are the side effects and how we can minimize the side effects, or how we can even totally eliminate the side effects, and how, or we can even go further down to identify why a particular set of compounds react in a particular way in a human body. That in depth or insight is missing today. Those type of insights is something which we can easily glean when we get on to this digital twin concept. Today, it is still more theoretical, more in the lab, but it is going to happen very soon.
Yeah, so I mean, all this is incredibly exciting. Um, I guess as a population, right? One of the things in healthcare that's always held us back has been compliance, governance, regulation for good reason. We don't want this data out on the public domain. It could affect insurance rates. It could affect even whether we're hired. It could affect all sorts of privacy. Um, if you look at some of the most recent legislation, even beyond HIPAA, right? You look at PCCP, so the FDA's predetermined change control plans. It seems like healthcare is getting a little bit more open to letting AI evolve without full pre-approval to everything that's getting done. Is this as big a step as we're talking about, this PCCP posture? Is this going to accelerate, or is this something that, we should be concerned about, that we're moving too fast?
So, in fact, we need to be happy about it because at least this regulations, the way they have shaped it, at least in 2026, they have brought a lot of positive changes. I can at least recall at the top of my head 3 to 4 major changes, which is going to democratize the diagnosis totally. And or I can call it as in a term like hospital without walls. So basically, the changes which I, at least which I read through in January 2026 was very significant. So let me give you an example. Earlier, assume a patient is going to a physician, and the AI algorithm reads through all the records, and it is very clear that the AI knows this patient has this particular condition, health condition. It was not supposed to just say that this is the condition that you have. It has to give a list of conditions, at least 4 or 5. Now they have removed that criteria. They have just said, if you are very clear, just say this is what it is, as long as you are able to explain it why. Explainable AI. So if the physician wants to know how did the algorithm arrive at this conclusion, the algorithm should be in a state to explain, hey, you know what, these are the various factors I read through, and combination of these factors clearly tells me that this is the condition. So that's a great significant improvement where fundamentally now we have started understanding AI can, it's not just a risky one, but it can help us to boil down on a particular narrative. That's number one. Number two, if you look at it, it even went ahead and said, sir, the earlier regulation was a physician should be able to independently review whatever recommendation was coming out of AI algorithm. But now they have said if there is a critical condition where you don't have time, such as the case of emergency triage, there you can bypass that as long as you go ahead and label that AI algorithm as a high risk medical device. So you need not go ahead and always verify it when you don't have the time, when you have to go ahead and perform certain steps on the patient. You can blindly depend on the AI as long as, again, that explainable AI is there. It is able to explain to you how did it arrive at the conclusion. Third thing is, now the difference or what an electronic device like an Apple Watch or a ring, and there are too many devices are there which are not medical devices. Now they can cover a broader range of health factors. It's not just about the count of steps you have taken, but it can cover your glucose trends. It can cover your blood pressure, as long as they don't definitively say that this is the particular disease or this is the particular diagnosis which I'm suggesting. It can give you trends. It can give you insights. Still, a physician has to confirm it, but they have expanded that ambit, right? So those are three things which they have done, and not only that, uh, the other thing is I believe they have also invested, or there is a lot of motivation to accelerate the investment on chronic cardiac and metabolic diseases, which they call as a tempo pilot framework, if I'm not wrong. And that is only for the AI algorithms. So fundamentally, these are the changes which I can recall immediately at the top of my head, which FDA has done for 2026. So if I have to put all this together, the one direction it is heading towards is they have started trusting AI more. They are not just seeing AI as one high risk factor, but they have understood it is a co-pilot which can coexist with the physician and drive it together in a much faster way. So
Yeah,
these
that's
changes are
huge.
well done. Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, look, you talked on so many things there, right? I mean, theoretically, today we use telemetry to decide whether or not a piece of technology is going to fail so we can proactively fix it. We talk about proactively looking at machines, aircraft, cars, so we can see whether or not there's apt to be a failure or some sort of catastrophic event. We know our cars today, in some cases, won't even start if the pre start checklist fails. They will fail to ignite. Sounds like that's where we're heading with humans, is being able to gather enough telemetry on an ongoing basis to predict what's likely to happen. And even then, if someone is found on the side of the road, to be able to pull up a record and even have their biomarkers and their wearable info so that as we're doing triage in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, as the hospital is preparing to receive the patient, there is so much more that has already been done that AI has investigated that we essentially get to the heart of the issue faster. And we have a much greater chance of not only saving the patient's life, but increasing their livelihood post incident. So, look, this is super, super excited. I have one final question for you before we tie off. So, paint me a day in the life. It's 2029. I'm a person with heart failure. I have diabetes. I'm on GLP-1. What's my agentic care copilot, as you described it, actually going to do on my behalf? What is it going to autonomously handle? And how is it ultimately going to interact with a human to make my experience as a patient with this chronic condition much different than what we see today?
Yep. That's a very interesting question. So the way we believe this is going to shape up, and it's already happening, is you need not be excessively worried about what are the things which you need to do in order, whether it is going to be your medication adherence, whether it is going to be a sleep pattern, whether it is your diet pattern, whether it is your activity pattern. A is going to coach you. No human coach. It is going to coach you, saying that this is what it is. So assume that you go into a you go for a lunch table and you see a food menu. Maybe there is a device, might be a meta glass, which is going to say, hey, you know what? Though there are 5 options for our health condition, and from whatever you have already consumed in the morning, you probably you can just take option A, option B, option D. That fits into our caloric pattern. And that recommendation will come to you real time as you look at the menu,
Oh,
right?
wow. So
And
you're thinking, Shammy, even through my glasses are automatically looking at the menu and suggesting to me what the appropriate, menu might be and what I should eat at that point in the day.
exactly. And for this, you need not wait till 2029. It is possible even today. It is possible even today with Meta Glass, Ray-Ban Glass, which are AI enabled. As you see, it will not only tell you what is that particular dish, it will also tell you a caloric value. It will also tell you the ingredients in terms of carbs, proteins, fat, and will correlate with what is good for you and whether it is recommended or not. The decisions you are going to take. So human in the loop is different, right? So it is going to recommend to you, and probably if it is you are sitting in a meeting and the meeting is dragging, it is going to again whisper in your ear saying, "Hey, you know what? It is your medication time. Why don't you do it?" If you look at Apple Watch today, if you have been sitting for quite some time, it will tell you time to stand up. The same thing can come up or for your medication, and all these records will be converged totally, so that data silos will be broken and your clinician will be informed if at all it is on half track quite for some time and it is getting onto a stage where there is a medical intervention is essential. But it will not be on a periodic basis. What I mean by that is today you go to a physician, they just say that, okay, come back after a month, come back after a quarter. It is time driven, but it should be event driven. Maybe you are doing it really extremely well. You don't need a physician visit every 1 quarter. So maybe your records can be passed on, and the agent from your physician office can scan it, and that agent can decide, Sean need not come and visit now. And that can be communicated back to your agent. So you are not even involved here. There is exchange of information, decisions are taken, and you are free to do what you are doing, unless otherwise they decide the other way around, saying, hey, you know what, things slightly doesn't look good. Maybe it's a time for a visit, right?
Yeah,
So
I love that. I mean, I love where you're going with this, right? I'm a Whoop Band fan. I wear one every day, and I would tell you one of my favorite parts of it is in the morning. It actually tells me what kind of day I can expect. And hey, you might want to grab a nap today, or really important that you eat some protein today, given the exercise that you did yesterday. Um, I mean, it sounds like we're moving incredibly fast. Look, before we sign off here, where can folks learn more about Welldoc and kind of dig into what you guys are doing and where you're going next?
the first and primary place will be our website because we keep it up to date and we keep it posted on the features which we are bringing into our app and other things. And we also have periodic press releases and the partnership which we have and the type of work which we are doing. But again, we ensure that it is getting updated in our website. So our website should be the first and the primary point of contact.
Wow. Well, look, Shammy, thank you so much for joining us today. I sincerely appreciate all the insight, and I'm sure we'll have tons of comments from folks that have all sorts of perspective and excitement about where the future's headed. For our listeners, please let us know what you think. You can find all of our podcasts on YouTube and Spotify, so please subscribe and like. And for Shammy Narayanan and Shawn Rosemarin for Beyond the IT Headlines, we appreciate all your time and energy, and we'll see you next week.